Hey guys, so today I just wanted to talk about some things, go over some things. So let's go over the World Championship 2023 qualifiers first. This event, oh, I haven't claimed that yet. This event sucks ass. So the first part honestly was kind of fine. Like some people don't like this event, but it doesn't like come around that often. We have like three festivals or something, and then one of these kind of ranked events where you climb to like the second stage. So I didn't really try that hard. Like I did attempt on the first day and I only peaked like I think 12,000 before I decided to call it quits. And then the rest is just me doing dailies on here, I'm pretty sure. So this event actually giga sucked ass for so many reasons. Just complete garbage. No other way to really put it. So first off, like, the guys that did grind it out, respectable. But, like, the thing is, to get scores like these, you basically had to, like, stay up for, like, 72 hours, pretty much. Just for example, I was looking at, like, Joshua Schmidt's, like, um, stream, I guess? Yeah. I was looking at that, like, and this man unironically streamed 72 hours, I'm pretty sure, nearly. Like, I think it was, I don't remember the exact time, but I think it was unironically just on stream 60 hours at least. So if he played off stream, I don't know if he did or not, but that that's second place. And these guys, all three of these guys in the for EU, they're all within like 1,000 of each other. That's like one or two games, like one or two wins, and their positions would all shuffle. And just if we use that as a benchmark, every single player here, aside from like Latin, I guess, because Latin honestly just seems like the easiest region, just judging by the like point differential, right? So yeah, this this is just painful. Like, you don't even get any meaningful rewards unless you place within top 100. Because you might be like, oh, but you get the bronze finalist if you're 101st to 500th. And then you don't say. It's actually the 1,000th. Well, not even 1,000th. That's the 101st all the way down to 10,000th. Get bronze finalist. And you also get like the same amount of these special reward tickets all the way up to here. So your rewards are pretty much the same. I guess this top 1,000 thing is different, but you basically have the same rewards all the way from like 101st to basically, well, you could argue here. So that's 10,000th, but even if you're beyond 10,000th, you still get the same amount of tickets, which is pretty crazy considering to get to this point, you'd have to sink in like 50 hours, which is just like, you serious? That's pain. So first stage, of course, like pretty fine overall. Nothing like too egregious, I believe was the term. So that's fine, I guess. But the fact that like I don't know, like you have to put in 70 or like within 60 to 70 hours just to be able to like get into the rankings is absurd for this kind of thing. Because like this was unnecessarily grindy and it just was suffering basically. And I think I played for like, I guess like around 15 hours total or something. It's, I think, right? But like a good amount just became casual play for me. So I just kind of gave up, right? But these guys, everyone like in like basically I think up to the 1,000th mark, probably at least. So thousands of people sank in so much time because they want to probably improve the ranking and such. But why are we forced to like grind for several straight days for this, right? Oh, whoops. This format is very bad and lacks some competitive integrity. Like, I think the most reasonable way to do this is to have a still somewhat high cap for the games. Like, let's say you can only play up to 200 games that count towards your ranking, and then the rest can go to like free play basically and no longer affect your ranking. Like something like that would be fine in my opinion. And then you wouldn't have to grind for 72 hours, even if you only had to, like, if you still had to grind 8 hours or something. That's respectable because then we can still like have the integrity of the ladder, right? And it's still like 200 games, like winning a decent percent of those, like 70%, 80% is still, it still shows pretty well in the rankings. Because the rankings, like, honestly, for the most part, didn't change as far as I know. Like, they remain pretty consistent towards, like, after, like, a certain point. So, like, nothing basically changed in, like, the top 3 at least for most regions as far as I know. So it was completely pointless to have these extra days of grinding. Pretty damn pointless. And that's like the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing is we didn't actually have a ban list like for quite a while. So let me check to make sure I'm not wrong about this. Yeah. So the last one was May 10th, but I wouldn't really call this like a ban list or anything because Steam the Cloak was just put out one. So what was the one before that? That was more or less the last one, right? April 19th. Last one was April 19th. And this is what they did. Instant Fusion is banned. Okay. King of the Swamp is limited. Let's be real, this hit, completely worthless. The other King of the Swamp still exists. This hits nothing. Foolish Burial Goods. Honestly, this was better at 3 for so many reasons. Change of the Heart semi-limit, like all these like unlimits and stuff. No real issue with these. 10 key, I mean, I don't know about 10 key. But like, okay, I guess. And then the next ban list, this is like more than a month later. After this obnoxious, well, yeah, after this obnoxious little event, I guess, yeah. We can call it that. Banning Smoke Grenade, terraforming Cyberstein, limiting Keldo, Mudora, Agido, semi-limit Spray Blue, semi-limit Gearsuit, Deer Servant Metaverse, Cyber Angel, Ben 10. And this is effective on June 8th, which, as of the time I am recording this, in basically a week. So this is just a trash ban list, straight up. Like, the only thing good is that they hit the Shizu cards here, right? So Keldo is going to 1, Midora to 1, Agido to 1. Although Killbuck is still at 2, so you still have 2, 4, 5 of these cards, which is still fairly annoying. And then, for literally no reason, why is Sprite Blue being semied? Like, literally makes no sense. What is this? Like, this would make sense if we had Sprint, maybe. Like, when was the last time you saw a Sprite player, be honest? This is kind of out of the blue. This should, like, Sprite hits should be later. But, technically, if you look at it this way, they hit the Ishizu cards, which affects Ishizu tier, of course, right? Kind of. But then, they hit Sprite Blue. So, technically, they actually, if you also looked at the last fan list, they technically have not directly hit tier yet. Like, at all. They actually hit Sprite first before they hit tier, which is, like, kind of ridiculous. Because you can argue that none of those hits, like, until the most recent ban list even affect tier. But, like, Cyberstein, honestly, is kind of a good riddance kind of card with Sprite Elf floating around and just making Naturia Exterio. It's just a bit annoying, honestly. Depends on what you're playing, though, I suppose. But Smoke Grenade of the Thief, this hit is honestly unnecessary. Like, Smoke is fine, honestly, at 3. Like, Smoke's not even that good right now. I honestly think Smoke is, like, fine. Well, when it comes to right now, at least. Not a big deal. Terraforming? Why is Terraforming being hit? So, if you were thinking, like, on surface level, you might just be like, oh, they're hitting tier because, like, they can search for Reino with Terraforming. No. That might have a slight effect, but does this really matter? Salvation is still something they can play, right? So that this doesn't affect them that hard. But, like, hitting Salvation might be unfair, so the hitting Terraforming is what you might be thinking. But if you think about it realistically, Terraforming doesn't really hit tier that hard. Pearl Arena's already at 1. What does this change? Nothing. So, I'll go more into depth on the in a second about that. So, the semi-limits that we got, Girsu to 2, which is always nice. Girsu could be at 3, doesn't really matter. Nadir Servant to 2. Does that even matter? Like, honestly, yeah, I don't think it matters. Like, the most usage you could get out of this, I'm thinking, and nothing's popping up. Yep. Metaverse to 2. Cyber Angel Benten to 2. So Benten to 2. Does that matter? Little bit. Not a big deal. Why was Benten so gross? Let me think. Oh yeah, because ritual decks can use this to search Diviner in general, and yeah, Diviner is completely disgusting. Lack of hard ones per turn on Herald of Orange Light, for example, and then you have, like, Sprite Elf now, so that's probably a lot. But Metaverse to 2 is pretty good for, like, decks like Lair, and now you can actually trap trick a Metaverse, which I don't know if that does anything or not, but you can. So, going back to this, they did indeed ban Terraforming, but they did give us an additional copy of Metaverse, which kind of balances it out. So you might be thinking, oh, but, like, Terraforming must hurt some decks, right? Surprisingly less decks than you would think. The biggest victim, I think, are, like, specifically True Draco and Subterror. Subterror doesn't have a way to search their field spell, and Metaverse is not really good for them to search their field spell with, like, unless they want to activate their field spell on turn 3, which is just a bit ridiculous. So, if you think about it objectively, the I believe that there are 3 decks total that really care about terraforming being hit. Because honestly, Pearl Arena, you can just play Pearl Arena at 0 copies anyways, like, it's fine. Whatever. I mean, you would prefer to have Pearl Arena, obviously, but like, completely playable without Pearl Arena, right? Although Pearl Arena is a good card. So, the thing about terraforming is, this doesn't affect like any decks anyways, because if you only were able to play the 3 copies of your field spell like Subterror, and you just have 3 copies of Hidden City and you just pray you open it because you have no way to actually search the card, then you were kind of doomed to begin with, right? Nothing, like, terraforming doesn't help you out too much. So the other type of deck where this actually affects you a lot, though, is where you have just 1 field spell. So having a copy of terraforming, of course, similar to like tier, right, does help you out a lot. So this actually affects True Draco, actually, because their field spell is limited to 1 still. Why? I don't know. I think it's actually fine right now, personally. But yeah, it is limited to 1, and now it is truly at 1, and it's not really searchable. So that's what gets hurt the most. With tier, though, if they play, for example, Rainbow Bridge of Salvation and Foolish Burial Goods, they still have 2 ways into Perlarino, like hard drawing Perlarino and then Foolish Burial Goods and Rainbow Salvation if it gets milled. So, tier, they're doing whatever. Won't go too into depth on Rainbow Bridge of Salvation, but yeah. The deck that's actually targeted for this terraforming hit is actually Fluanderies. If you think about it, actually, that is unironically the deck that gets affected most by terraforming being banned, which is just strange why you would still do this. So the Fluanderies, the map is at 1. It is still searchable, of course, right? But the thing about it is that if you do search it with Metaverse, that's not really going to be doing much for you. And if you search it off MPen, you probably just have to end your turn on that. So you would end on more or less like MPen with map, which is just honestly garbage. Dreaming Town actually just is so much better than map. Like MPen, Dreaming Town, infinitely better. And it does help, I suppose, that you get this Book of Eclipse-like effect. And the thing about like terraforming is it allows them to start with a map, and when a Flu player starts with a map, they actually get the option to, of course, chain block you to hell, so you don't get to activate like any well, hand traps against them. And they're fairly hand trap resistant now with Advent as well, which is pretty annoying. So this is literally just a Fluanderies hit, because this actually affects, like, as far as I know, like, nearly 0 decks. I think the other deck this might, like, well, actually, this doesn't affect, like, the majority of decks, because a lot of their field spells have some way to be searched. So, unless you're something, like, similar to Subterror, you're not significantly hurt, because your deck kind of sucked before anyways. If you have 3 field spells you need to open and then you just don't open them. Pain. No other way to put it. So, yeah, in short, you're just in pain because of your, if you're playing, like, Subterror. Aside from the terraforming hit and this, nothing here seems like too super... it doesn't super make sense to me. Because the cards I would want to see hit the most are actually the tier spells and traps, namely Scream and Salik. Scream and Salik. The fact that they're both at 3 is just stupid, in my opinion. Those are the cards I personally want to see hit the most, because being able to search Salik and just activate Salik, right? It's too disgustingly strong, in my opinion. With crime as well. So the deck is already like obnoxious. I don't know. Tier annoying as hell. So the of course hitting all of these Shizu cards here does help a good bit, but tier has not been directly hit yet, and of course I can assume that like Konami wants tier to be playable still, so that's why I would like to see the spell traps hit, just to make it a good bit weaker. Like Salik to 1 is a pretty big hit, and forces tier players to take a hit on the consistency, because if they mill the Salik, then even if we did have the Ishizu cards, they would have to waste a shuffler on putting back Salik so they can search it later. And in my opinion, that already is pretty good, because Salik honestly is just a disgusting card. And the card that searches it is Scream, of course. So if Scream searches Salik, like, and your opponent were to just end on Kalos Salik, you, like, there are a bunch of different actions you can take, and all of them are painful. So I'll list some generic options you can do. So if you just try to play through this, so you have to deal with a 3000 beater. You have to deal with a monster negate that's like imperm, so it's also a permanent negate as well. So if you have a 2-effect monster like Unizombie, you lose both effects to it, which really sucks, of course. So even if your monster has 2 effects, you get to use none of them. And then if you Forbidden Droplet Rukelos, Dark Ruler no more Rukelos, it just doesn't really work out too well. The issue being Salik being able to send Rukelos, and then Rukelos being reset. So just at the basic level, this is kind of what Salik enables. And of course, if you try to remove Salik, if you use like MST, Duster, Lightning Storm, whatever, to remove Salik, then it will allow them to add Haveness to the hand, which is pretty gross. So, and then Haveness, you have to deal with the Haveness mills, and that has a decent chance of leading into a high roll, and they can high roll into other stuff like Predaplan Dragos Depelia, which is another like monster negate replacing the Salik, or like a Kaleidoheart, and this is already assuming a pretty low roll, just Rukelos and Salik. Salik being giga annoying because of all the different interactions it stops. And this doesn't even consider the fact that, like, Salik, of course, is going to take priority over, like, a crime. So, if Salik is hit, and Scream as well. I think that would hit the deck the most without taking away too much of the fun aspects of the milling that people typically enjoy with these types of decks. And it allows tier to be played to, well, I guess you would have to, because tier is already like so limited, all of their cards, so you would have to find a tier hybrid build, and that would increase the deck, like the diversity within like tier builds. And I think that would be more interesting. And the thing about this though is, the thing I haven't mentioned yet is that this list is so late. They should have hit all of these cards basically, except for Smoke, because like, I don't really care. Spright Blue, I mean that's fine. Yugioh to 2, that would be nice. Metaverse to 2, not really relevant. Cyber Angel Benton to 2, not super relevant. Nadir Servant to 2, there might be like 3 players that care right now about that. I mean, I don't know what Nadir Servant really does for you, but either way, like, mostly these hits should have been done before, like, the qualifiers even began. Like, way before Phase 2 even started. These all should have been hit. Like, how many games of tier and getting floodgated do you want to play? Like, generally, you're either getting hit by, like, either a tier player setting up, like, if they high roll, I guess, Select Crime with Rukelos and some other stuff, which is giga annoying, giga awful to play against. And you're usually losing on the spot just because of how gross those cards are, and how you basically don't have enough interaction to possibly break through. Even with going second cards, actually, and maybe even if you drew some hand traps, it's still not something you can deal with. Because tier can just high roll into, like, off of 1 mil. Like, let's say you have, like, a response for nearly every single card in their hand, and on the last one, they resolve a mill. And on that mill, they can just high roll into, like, Kick Kalos, mill some more. Merrily, go ahead, mill again. And just end on, like, Select Crime. It's totally possible. And if they mill Cyberstein, of course, they can also end up getting Naturia Exterio as well. Making it just pain if your opponent can high roll. So they shouldn't. So Cyberstein, I agree, should be kind of banned. I do hope, though, that these cards do stay in the Legacy Pack, so I don't have to craft them. Like, let's see. Wait. Yeah, they're not gonna be in. Yeah. I mean, there's, like, no good cards in the Legacy pool anyway, so, like, Cyberstein and Smoke Grenade, I'm at, like, 0 copies of both somehow. So, unlucky for me, I guess. Just read this part here. Yeah, they won't be in Legacy anymore. So, I can't play them in unlimited format either, unless I craft them, which sucks. Oh well, I guess. So, blue to 2 is just kind of nowhere, though. This is honestly probably a future hit for when Sprint releases, because they might, like, they might be thinking that Sprint is just too insane. I don't know if they're keeping Elf around or not. Elf is pretty degenerate. But, like, maybe Elf is being kept around. That might be the reasoning behind this. Well, this is mostly what I want to talk about. And the next selection pack will be dropping relatively soon, right? In about a week, and as you can see, I am prepared. 9,000 gems. So yeah. I'll definitely be doing polls on that whenever that comes out. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.